The funny part is that I left Brazil in summer, January 1st, and I end up landing in Ohio.
Oh my
January
goodness.
2nd, 1976, they were having the worst winter storm over there when I arrived. And I never had seen the snow before.
Oh,
All right, let's get started. I would like to welcome everyone to this Sunday's session with Zara Spiritual Healing. And like all of our activities, we begin with prayer. We just heard from Charles. Charles, please lead us in today's prayer.
What a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I'd like to invite each one of you to focus your attention on our divine Creator at this moment and our divine brother, Jesus Christ, evoking from his heart the love and the attention that he has dedicated to our development. So, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom and the glory forever. With these vibrations, we thank you all for being present at this moment and those that will be seeing us later on the media. We pray that our speaker today be blessed with the inspiration for the message that he is bringing to us for our study, understanding, and development. And so be it.
so it is. You're on mute, Mark.
Again,
Of course.
BSH, Bizarro Spiritual Healing, is a registered 501c3 nonprofit with the state of California. Our mission is quite simple: to present spiritism and spirituality perspectives modernized in the 1850s and brought forward with humanity across the globe since then. We welcome all beliefs, all perspectives, all religions, and request that you actively participate using the chat window for any questions you may have. And we're going to just give you a sense of the types of things we do each week. We have a schedule of activities. And this service is on Sundays via Zoom, and this Zoom link is the primary access point for all of these activities. So we will have two parts of today's meeting, an educational presentation, and then the second part will be a set of healing passes. Every day at 6 p.m., we have a short session, typically 15 to 20 minutes of daily prayers. This is in support of whatever individual needs or global needs there may be, both spiritual and physically focused. And by arrangement or appointment, we also offer one-on-one fraternal counseling. And again, if you have this specific need, we offer this typically on Wednesdays in the afternoon, but really we have individuals who will be available to meet your schedule if at all possible. Our formality of book studies last approximately 1 hour and begin right after the daily prayers. Tonight, we are starting, no, we have started Missionaries of the Light, Chico Xavier's wonderful explanation, further explanations. On Tuesday nights, we have a book study on the Consoler in collaboration with the Divine Light Spiritist group. On Wednesdays, we have a study of heaven and hell, and this has been going on for over a year. We are in the final third of this magnificent explanatory foundational book. On Thursdays, we are all about our own progress and development through the book Living Spring. Again, a Chico Xavier Emmanuel collaboration. On Monday nights after prayer, it's a special invitation only for the BSH mediums. And the first part is an educational process, and the second process is healing services with a very specific focus. But again, throughout the week, we are accessible and available. We leave Friday and Saturdays for each person to honor themselves, to continue their own path of education, or perhaps put it into practice. And one other thing I would say, as a nonprofit, we welcome any and all donations through our website. That's bshcenter.org. And this facilitates the various activities we have, including feeding the homeless. So now we get to move into the prepared portion of today's meeting, which is an educational presentation by a very experienced Spiritism speaker, Luiz Lima, who spends his time these days halfway in Florida, in the Orlando area, and the other half of the time in Portugal. But because of this wonderful communications medium, it's like he's in our own backyard every day. I was just online with Luis yesterday, so this is wonderful. I could go on and on about his accolades, but you know what? You're going to get a sense of it right off the bat when you hear him speak and the knowledge he brings forward. So, Luis, feel free to fill us in on what your current bio might look like, but you don't need.
Yeah, I've been here in the U.S. since 1990, and I've been in South Florida, and I'm in Central Florida, Orlando area, and I spend half my time in Portugal. And we do lectures, locally here and across the country, and also live presentations like this one. And it's always good to hear from different people in different places. Everybody has a different approach. We learn a lot by doing this. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this once again. Okay, so let's, can we get started? Okay, so we are going to speak today about the spiritual layers of planet Earth. It's going to be easier, I think, to share some slides here, because I think a visual presentation would make it slightly easier. So let's go for that. Okay. Spiritual layers of the planet. Before we can actually get into this, we need to understand how the creation, the whole creation, is structured and organized. So we're going to start with that. Let's, and in order to speak about it, we need to go back to the beginning. And what is the beginning? That's the beginning, God. That's where everything starts. Defined in Spiritism as supreme intelligence and also the first cause of all things. But from God, we are told that two things emanate. One is called the spiritual principle, meaning here are the seeds of everything that one day is going to be intelligent principle and later on spirit. So the seeds of anything spiritual is here. Also emanates from God what we call the universal cosmic fluid. Here are the seeds. Inside this reside the seeds of everything that one day is going to be matter of any form. That's why sometimes it's also called material principle. Now, everything that happens in the creation, absolutely everything, it starts between the integration, or the interaction even better, between the spiritual principle and the universal cosmic fluid. So the spiritual principle will interact more and more progressively with the universal cosmic fluid. We're not going to get into details today because it's not the point, but there's going to be a certain point where the spiritual principle becomes much more advanced than in the beginning, and then it receives a different name. It receives a different name called intelligent principle. The transition point from spiritual principle to intelligent principle is when the spiritual principle learns how to infuse life into matter that's when it becomes intelligent principle. So spiritual principle is responsible for the creation of the minerals and the entire mineral kingdom. When life gets into place, plants, animals, and humans, then it's already intelligent principle, which is kind of this graduation from being spiritual principle. The intelligent principle will continuously interact, it continues with the universal cosmic fluid, forming other things much more advanced and much more intelligent than the spiritual principle could, to a point that it becomes so intelligent that we call it now spirit. So spirit is the evolution of the intelligent principle which has passed through the entire plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. So now it's much more advanced, and we call it spirit, which will again continue the interaction with the universal cosmic fluid, the material principle, to form more things. And this doesn't stop. This is continuously. That's how creation takes place. That's how everything is created, by the interaction of the intelligence and the matter. So if we are talking about spiritual layers of the planet, that is related to where spirits are housed. So we have to understand how the universal cosmic fluid is used to form everything in the creation. So let's take a closer look at this universal cosmic fluid. Universal cosmic fluid, as I said, comes straight out of God, straight out of, if you will, God's mouth, okay? It emanates directly from God. No spirit is able to create universal cosmic fluid. Now, spirits are able to modify it. So there is a group of spirits, very, very, very high advanced spirits, almost like side by side with God, almost like that. And these spirits are able to modify the universal cosmic fluid into its first layer, okay? That is called cosmic dwellings. So out of the universal cosmic fluid, they form these cosmic dwellings. To make it easier, we can go by analogy. Imagine you have a huge warehouse, an infinite warehouse, and you're going to start allocating space for things to be placed in there. That's more or less what it is. So part of the universal cosmic fluid is prepared in the first layer to be what we call cosmic dwellings. Once these cosmic dwellings are created and in place, another group of very, very, very advanced spirits are going to take this layer, cosmic dwellings, no longer universal cosmic fluid. They work off cosmic dwellings to form another layer that we call stellar organization. So stellar organizations only happens because cosmic dwellings has been created before that. And it goes just like that. So out of stellar organizations, very advanced spirits are able to create the next layer, which we call galaxies and constellations. So space is being allocated for all of this to be able to exist. So from galaxies and constellations, very advanced spirits are able to create planets. You see, this comes down. So when you get to, for example, the planet level, we should not really be talking about universal cosmic fluid anymore, because it's so far from it. It wouldn't make sense. It would get us in trouble with our vocabulary, to say the least. So planets are created then, and inside the planets, okay, then we have several planets here. And these planets are not random. They are created. Everything here is created with a purpose, a very well-defined purpose. So when planets are created, they have different purposes. So we divide, or we understand planets based on their purpose. There are 5 main purposes of planets in general. The first level, the lower level, is what we call primitive planets, to house first human incarnations of spirits, just coming out of the animal kingdom. The second layer of planets, trials and expiations. That's us. That's Earth. Earth is here. In here, evil predominates over good. The next level, regenerative, which we are going to, it's different. Here we don't have evil things happening anymore. Then the next level is happy planets where good supersedes evil completely. And then we have the top layer, heavenly or divine planets. All these planets have a purpose, and the purpose is going to be for study purposes, one of these 5 things there. Okay, so back to the planet layer. Inside the planets layer, you see what we're calling planets here is a far modification from the universal cosmic fluid. It's like if you were able to put your hands in the universal cosmic fluid, you bring it and here, I'm going to form my planets within this that I'm holding here. Okay, so the planets have 2 types of matter, every planet. One is imponderable matter, and the other is called ponderable matter. I'm going to have to dig into see what they are exactly and what the difference is. So this is for every planet, Earth included, us included. So who is the only one touching the universal cosmic fluid? God, because it's the only one able to generate it. Nobody else does. The next layer down, where you see cosmic dwellings, stellar organizations, galaxies, constellations, and planets, are modifications of the universal cosmic fluid, and this is operated by very advanced spirits. Emmanuel and Andre Luiz gives us different names for these spirits. They're all the same. So different names are divine intelligences, great devas, archangels, and glorious intelligences. Those are very, very, very advanced spirits able to create those things. Jesus is here because Jesus is able to create planets. So he's one of them here. Okay, and imponderable and ponderable matter, meaning now we are already in the planetary fluid. We cannot refer anymore to universal cosmic fluid because we're not touching it anymore. You and I, we don't touch the universal cosmic fluid. We touch the planetary fluid, which is different for every planet. We could not touch the planetary fluid for Jupiter because we need to have a different moral grading to be able to do this. So every planet has its own fluid. So on Earth, who is able to touch imponderable and ponderable matter? Us, spirits, and human intelligences. So we are not able to create a planet, you and I. We are able to modify the fluid of the planet that we are on. And we do. We modify both imponderable matter and ponderable matter. So let's expand this imponderable and ponderable matter a little bit. So we start, getting closer to talk about spiritual layers of the planet. So here we are. Ponderable matter and imponderable matter, just to make sure we're no longer talking about the universal cosmic fluid. We are talking about the planetary fluid. Okay, this is planet Earth. What do we have as ponderable matter? Here is where we live our material life. We have our objects that we do, our bodies, and this is all studied with the 4 basic states of matter, which are solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. Those are the 4 basic states of matter in this planet. Okay, science does not study this outside our planet, not yet. But this is what we have here on Earth. And this is us here. That's where we live. We live a material life here. Now, what happens in the imponderable matter? There is spiritual life. Spiritual life meaning there are spirits living there, but they are not incarnate. If they were incarnate, they would be living a material life. So spiritual life here refers to spirits, discarnate spirits, living within the planetary fluid of Earth. So in the same way we have our life organized here, materially speaking, our physical life, there's organization in spiritual life as well. There's housing, there's layers of possibilities. Their spirits are more advanced than others in spiritual life. Some of the spirits live, their habitat is here in the planet Earth, but some are more advanced than others. So the spiritual layers that we're going to talk about is the habitat for discarnate spirits. So for example, spirits that have recently discarnated, they are still adapting back to whatever spiritual layer they're going to go to. And that's the purpose today, to explain where we go and why and what the layers are. So in order to speak in details about these spiritual layers, we're going to use a reference, which is actually an image, which is this image here that you see on the screen. Okay, this image is well known in Spiritism, and it comes from this book. What is this book? It's worth telling the story so things make sense. So 5 minutes about this. You see one of the incarnate orders on the left side, the second line, Higurina Konya. She's the main medium for this book to have been compiled. And the story goes more or less like this. She was having dreams. She was a medium, but she didn't know exactly. But so she was having these dreams, weird dreams, according to her. And they become very recurring. You know, they become almost daily. So one day she said, this thing is bugging me. I want to go back. I want to go to bed and sleep. I don't want to be having these things all the time. It's been every day almost. And so she said, these images keep coming on my mind. And they were always the same 12 images. Okay, almost the same 12 images. So she said, well, I don't know how to draw. It's not my thing. But I'm going to draw more or less what these images are. But maybe if I put them on paper, they go away and I can go back to my sleep every night without these things anymore. So she puts on paper, you know, to the extent that she could. She's not a designer or something. But, you know, she put that on the paper, all 12 images in 12 sheets. But the dreams did not stop. They continued. And she said, I'm going to talk to Brazilian medium Chico Xavier. Let's see what he says, because I'm sure he can give me some information. So she goes to him and explains all of this and puts the 12 sheets with the 12 drawings on the table. He looks at that and he goes like, oh my God, do you have any idea of what this is? And she goes, no, that's what I'm here for. I want to know what this is. And he said, those 12 images are images from Nasolar. So the cover of the book, the movie Nasolar, all the images that we see are based on these 12 images. So if you're able to get your hands on a book, you're going to see the 12 images. The image that we have on the left side is one of them. It's the last image. So she explains what this is, because you look at this and it doesn't mean much. Well, what this is the spiritual layers of the planetary fluid for planet Earth. As you can see, there are circles, several circles, if you will, getting larger and larger. So these are the layers of the planet. We're going to explain what they are and what they're doing in there and what it has to do with us. So let's bring this image like that. The circle here in red marks the surface of the planet. I don't know if you can see inside, there's the United States, South America. So in red, what you see is the surface of the planet. From geology, studies of geology, we know that inside the planet, going to the center, there's stuff. Going to the center of the Earth, there's stuff. It's not vacuum. There's matter with a lot of things And we are going to use this knowledge that was acquired, throughout times from science, because it makes sense to us. So inside the planet, on the very center, if you imagine that the planet is a mass of a ball, for example, the very center is called inner core. The next layer up, still underneath the ground, the next layer up is called outer core. Then the next layer is called lower mental, and then upper mental. All of these things are beneath the surface. All of them. Nothing here is at the surface. Everything is underneath the surface. What we are told is that this is the habitat for low order spirits, also called dark zones. In the past, in English translations, we used to call this either dark zones or lower zones, but the names were getting in the way. So the names were kind of organized. And we basically today, we use the words or the expression dark zones for spirits living in those zones. Pay attention, we're talking about spirits living there. No incarnate lives in there. Those are spirits, discarnate spirits. Coming up, we have the surface of the earth's crust. Who lives on the crust? Incarnate spirits. There is not a single discarnate spirit living on the earth's crust, not a single one. 100% of the spirits living on this layer are incarnate. Okay? And going up on the scale, we have what we call umbral. Again, sometimes that was called lower zones. So you could, we still see those, the expression lower zones being used, but in the past, I would say 10 years, there's a preference for the word umbral. So it doesn't cause any confusion with dark zones all the way down. So umbral. So here we have umbral. And we have layers up from that one. Arts, culture, and science is the next one. Then we go into fraternal love. And then we go into the directives of the planet. All these layers are within the planetary fluid. Now, if you look at the image on the left, the last layer, or on top of the last layer, there's a bunch of little drawings and lines and dots. Those are the constellations that we see when we look up in the sky. Those are called stellar dome. They are no longer part of the planetary fluid. They are here to illustrate that there's a limit to how far the planetary fluid, how up it goes. So the stellar dome is no longer part of, is not a layer that belongs to the planetary fluid. It's here for illustration, separated from the other ones. Okay. Now, it is very common to divide this umbral in 3 layers, which we call from bottom to top: lower umbral, medium umbral, and upper umbral. Upper umbral is also called sometimes fine umbral and sometimes simply umbral. But these are the actual names that define each one of them. On the layer called upper umbral, we have spiritual colony, Nosolar. That's where the colony is. So it's Nosolar. If you read the book, if you saw the movie, it's a spiritual colony. So automatically it tells us that it houses discarnate spirits, but scarnate spirits that are, we're going to explain how, but are compatible with being on that layer. Spirits that go or are housed in the upper umbral are not spirits in the dark zones. They're more advanced than spirits in the dark zones. Spirits in the dark zones are going to be in the inner cores of the planet. when they discarnate. Now, let's go back here. If we go by analogy, which is what I'm going to do now, think about this. Think that I bring in a recipient with water, okay, as we try to illustrate here. If I drop on this, in this recipient, if I drop a ball of, let's say, iron, it's going to go to the bottom of the recipient. Nobody's going to argue about that. For us, it comes to be an obvious thing, and nobody's going to argue with that. We can do collective prayer as much as we can so this thing doesn't go to the bottom. It's not going to help. It is going to the bottom. Because it's how the planet is organized in its physical part. Iron is heavy. It's going to go to the bottom of the recipient. Now, let's say that I bring a ball made of styrofoam and I just drop it. It's going to stay afloat. It's going to stay on the surface. Collective prayer that we do, all the inhabitants of the world are not going to bring this thing down because it's the way the planet is structured. Now, think about this. Let's say that I physically, with my hand, I physically grab the iron ball and I go with my hand down just halfway, not to the, I don't reach the bottom. I just halfway, like you see on the image. What happens to the iron ball that I'm holding? It doesn't go to the bottom. It's going to stay in there for as long as I keep my hands, on that position. And if I, instead of the iron ball, if I take the styrofoam ball, it is exactly the same thing. It's going to stay in there for as long as I hold it. It will not go to the surface. Now, what happens when I let go? When I let go, if the ball is made of iron, it's going to come down, all the way down. If it's made of styrofoam, it's going to go to the surface. And whatever material is going to be somewhere in between. So the ball stays, the ball in my hand stays in there because it's captive. It's being held. When I let go, it's going to go to its place and it will never be different. There's not a chance that when I release the iron ball, it goes to the top, to the surface. There's not a chance that when I release the styrofoam ball, it goes to the bottom. Why is that? This is pure physics. We're going to go into spiritism in 1 minute. It's because the weight of the ball is higher than the weight of the water, and the other way around for styrofoam. This is a physical parameter, characteristic called specific weight. The specific weight of the iron is higher than the specific weight of water. The specific weight of styrofoam is less than the specific weight of water. That's why things behave this way. And this is purely physical. Like I said, we can do collective prayer to make it change. You won't. That's the structure of the planet. Now over to spiritism. The same thing exact happens when we die. If we are incarnate, we are in the earth's crust, like there's something holding us right there. There's a physical body holding the spirit in that layer. And what layer is that? From bottom to top on the image on the right, 5th layer, earth's crust. What is available in the earth's crust? Incarnate spirits. What else? Nothing. No other types of spirits. Incarnate. So, for example, a spirit whose specific weight is compatible with inner core. When that spirit incarnates, where does it go? Layer number 5, earth's crust. When Jesus incarnates, where does it go? Layer number 5, earth's crust. So on the earth's crust, we are all here, 8 billion, complaining about spirits, being maybe less moralized than we are, more moralized than we are, different moral standards. Why? Because that's what we are here for. That's the purpose of having a layer only for incarnate spirits, so we can learn from each other. Imagine that you have a building, a 12-floor building, okay? And there's a manager on this building. And the manager one day sends a note to everyone, every resident of every floor, and it says, listen, we're going to get together. It's a mandatory meeting that we are going to have. The meeting is going to take place on such day, such hour, on the 5th floor. Be present, please. So on that day, that time, the 5th floor has all the residents. It doesn't mean that the guy who lives on the 8th floor is now living on the 5th. No, he still lives in the 8th floor. He is temporarily housed on the 5th floor for the meeting that he was called for. The guy who lives in the 1st floor will be in the 5th floor for whatever time, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the time for the meeting is. But he does not live on the 5th floor. He lives on the 1st because he belongs to the 1st floor. Okay, so what happens when we die? When we die, the hand releases, the body releases the spirit. Where is the spirit going? The spirit's specific weight, the perispirit's specific weight, is going to take us to the layer that is compatible with that specific weight. So some people, when they die, some incarnate spirits, when they become discarnate, they will go to, for example, lower mental. They're very low order spirits. So they will go to whatever layer is compatible with their perispirit. When Jesus died, when Jesus discarnated, where is he going to go? To the layer that is compatible with his perispirit. So no chance he's going to go to inner core. No chance he's going to go to umbral. He's not going to stay in any of these places. He's all the way up. He's going to go to the highest layer. Or he's going to even go to a layer that no longer belongs to the planetary fluid, because he has some, like other spirits, have the ability, they're so advanced, they have the ability to go to more advanced planets with more advanced planetary fluids. We cannot, you see, this is the important thing, we cannot decide where we go 5 minutes before death. And this is a problem that we bring from the old days being the years 311, 312 after Christ, because that's when Constantine I, Roman emperor, that made Christianity available for all in the empire, he said he converted himself into Christianity out of paganism. When he was in his deathbed, he said, I need to, now that I'm a good guy, that I no longer persecute the Christians, that, everybody is supposedly free for their religion. And so I'm such a good guy that I want to be in heaven. How can I, secure my place in heaven? And people around him who knew nothing because they were ex-pagans, they said, well, talk to God and, strike a deal with God. So 5 minutes before dying, he said, no, God, I'm so good. Look at what I did, my accomplishments. And so please let me be in heaven. Heaven according to, what they thought it was at the time, a physical place. That's not going to happen. Where do we go when we die? It's been decided already. By who? By us. Based on what? On our spiritual history. from simple and ignorant to this point. It's a compilation of several lifetimes, several incarnations that will take us from simple and ignorant to the current moment. When you sum all these things, sum all the vices and all the debts and credits and everything in the divine bank, our perispirit now has a specific weight that could carry more vices than virtues, half and half, only virtues, no vices, only vices, no virtues. That's going to set my specific weight, the specific weight of my perispirit. So when I die, I'm going to go to the layer that is compatible with perispirits having that particular specific weight. So I would love to go to directives of the planet. Will I? No. How about 5 minutes before dying? If I strike a deal? No. There won't be any deal. You see, that's what the responsibility that we have to take into consideration. There's no judgment. There's no screening process by an external source. When we die, say, okay, let me see where I'm going to send you. No, you're already being sent. By who? By yourself. Myself included, of course. This is a way of speaking. That's how it works. That's the structure of the spiritual layers of the planet. That is why we have a structure. So when Jesus says, there are many dwellings in my Father's house, that's your second reading right there. The first reading is there's a bunch of planets. There's a second reading. For each planet, there are spiritual layers. But when we reach a point where I'm so high in these layers that I can do more than what the planet is designed for, yes, I'll move on to another planet. And that's how we go, that I'll move on to another dwelling. But what I think is important for us here today is all these spiritual layers, they were not created. I mean, we use names to define them, but there's a full understanding behind it. The names wouldn't even matter. What matters is, where am I going to go? So when we talk about umbral in, spiritist literature, even in the movie, not so far, the spirits who discarnate and they go to the lower umbral, the images and the descriptions are awful. It's like everything is, it's dirt and black and gray and, awful. Shady, all shadows and different things. That would be the layer closest to the Earth's crust. That means we are not too far from that. Here, living a material life like that. Spirits which go to these layers, the lower umbral and the layers for dark zones, they have no conscience that they have died. They think they're still alive. They're still so attached to matter of some form, to objects, to things, to physical and material possessions. Some of them have no idea they died. They have crossed to a spiritual layer because of the attachment. Spirits that are not so attached, they will go to higher layers, so they are not close to the Earth's crust anymore, because they don't need to be close to a material place. That's what defines where we go and why. Well, hopefully I was able to explain where and why things happen. When we read the book No Solar, there's a lot of consideration about the umbral, because that's where the story takes place, in a spiritual colony called No Solar, on the third layer from the bottom of the umbral. And we see there that they try to rescue spirits from the lower layers. So they will bring spirits from lower umbral, and even medium umbral. They will bring it up to the upper umbral where the colony is. But it's very, very, very hard to bring spirits from the dark zones. Very hard. Spirit André Luiz, in the series of books that starts with No Solar, it's called Life in the Spiritual World. He will describe throughout the books several situations where him being part of a team of discarnate spirits that want to help, spirits that want to help other spirits, they go to these lower dark zones trying to help. And sometimes they can't do not that they can't do their job. The people in there, the spirits housed in there, they don't want to get away from it. They want to stay. They want to be living revenge. They want to be living, all these doing atrocities. That's what they like. They're still in the early forms of human life. They have not progressed enough to have better understanding of things. And it's very difficult to rescue spirits from those layers. So I think that's what I had to bring as a general idea today for our talk, our discussion. And, any questions, any comments, any suggestions, they're all welcome. Okay.
Luis, that was awesome. I mean, that was a depth and breadth that I had not previously heard. Explained so well. And the visual graphics were fabulous. As we know, the incarnate world lives by time, human-defined time, not spirit-defined time, not God-defined time.
Yeah.
And so that duration of time spent in the umbral, everybody wants to make, and spirits and the mediums want to make this analogy to time as humans know it. But recently in reading specifically from spirits who are newly arrived in one of those umbral layers, they talk about the incessant nature of their angst. And they try to make these analogies to human time, but it's not there. In the successive spirit writings or spirit communications, they talk about this incessant pain and suffering that just goes on and on. So time is a very different perspective in the umbral. Anyway, I just add that to everything you've given us.
Yeah, time is a material thing. It's a thing of the material life. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for some people to understand why we say that time is human. Like you said, time belongs to material life. But here's something I can tell you. Imagine I tell you, go to the corner of your living room, for example. Just go to the very corner of your living room. So, just come out, let's say 3 feet towards one direction, then 2 feet towards another one, and let's say 3 feet high. What do you see in there? And let's just say that this particular point, 2 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet, this point is, let's say, a table. And you're going to tell me, no, that point belongs to a table. And I'll tell you, okay, so let's do a second experience. Go to the same corner and using the same dimensions, come this way, 2 feet, 3 feet, and 3 feet. What was in there in 1975? That's why time is part of the material life.
Excellent. That's great.
right?
Luis, thank you again for this wonderful presentation, because the way you present is very pedagogical, is very logic, and because of your mind style is scientific. I appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
one thing that we understand from the spirits, on the spirits book, when they started in the introduction, there's an explanation that all things, like material and spiritual things, they exist for the mutual benefit of each other. So matter exists to benefit of the spirit, and the spirit exists for the benefit of matter, because we are both evolving in different directions.
Well, think about this. Matter does not really evolve. Carbon atom is the carbon atom. It's been the same since it was created by God's emanation through the universal cosmic fluid. Matter.
Luis, there's a process that explains the evolution of matter, because the planet is also evolving.
Mhm.
Point where the vibration of the planet, we will only accept people that are in that same vibration. So that is explained by the spirits that matter also evolves. I'll give an example. A piece of rock that falls from the mountains and land at the beach, through the period of time where the waves are bouncing back and forth, that rock is deteriorated and becomes sand.
Mhm.
That sand is utilized to the construction of roads, and roads facilitate the movement of human beings, for example. So that material has received some kind of spiritualized intervention.
That's it. The matter doesn't do by itself. Yes.
Exactly.
That's what we showed in the beginning. The spiritual principle is what does that.
Exactly.
If I ask you, it might sound paradoxical. If I ask you, is there a spiritual principle in a chair? Yes, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be a chair. Things
Exactly.
wouldn't be straight, the legs wouldn't be there, the seat wouldn't be there. You see, spiritual principle is different than spirit, and it's different than intelligent principle.
Yeah. So that's
The
why.
spiritual principle is what makes carbon atoms become graphite or diamonds.
Yeah.
So the evolution takes place because there's spiritual principle attached to it.
Okay. From no idea of what you are to the point of becoming an angelical being, there is evolutionary phases or steps where is graded. You don't jump from one position to the other.
Right.
To this process.
Mhm.
So for you to be, as human being, as material being, to become angelical, we have to go to this process. And after each grade, we continue to evolve. And along with us comes the matter that we are carrying with us, because it becomes utilized on another process of the creation.
Mhm.
That's part of it. For example, we can take for the science today. Astronauts, when they go out in space, if they stay there for too long, their body starts the disintegration process, because they are outside of the sphere of the planet. So they become weak and they disintegrate because they are away from the center. So that's why it's important that we understand that we are integrating this process of mutual benefit, matter and spirit and matter. But anyways, I appreciate that, because when you go to other direction, where if you go deep into the ocean, we feel the pressure, the compression,
Mhm.
that can cause us to disintegrate as well. So we need to reach that level of balance. And that's why it is important that by me taking care of myself or us, work on inner reform and improving ourselves, we're going to elevate ourselves to the point where we become lighter and lighter to the point of being able to go to higher spheres. I think that's the mechanics that takes place while we're here. But I appreciate your presentation because it places us in a very visual and logical perspective of what we are going through. I appreciate. Oh, by the way, having this understanding of this process, the more people becomes aware of it, that's gonna be influential in our process as social beings.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna be selecting our leaders based on their knowledge of this process, and not tied up to leaders that will hold us down and creating chaos and creating all these disasters that we're seeing around. And that's why the planet Earth will evolve to a regeneration process and then into a happy world. And that's how we are evolving.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get off the subject, but just think about this: the leader of a society, any society, okay,
Yeah.
it has a moral standard. Okay, if you think of the spiritual scale from impure spirits all the way to pure, it's somewhere in between. If it's too low, the whole society is going to be in that level.
Mhm.
So if we elect leaders that are low in morality, first of all, we are signing that we have that level of morality. That's the first. And second is for a leader here in this layer here, okay, everybody here and below will be okay with that.
Yes.
Everyone up from that will not be okay. But for the leader, these are the enemies. These are people trying to bring him down. These are people trying to,
Yeah.
To do everything wrong. And we see that for centuries and centuries and centuries everywhere. Every time we have a leader that's down here, the society will implode faster. They implode the society.
So
That's off the subject, but
is that right?
more or less like that. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. That's enough food for thought.
Yeah.
Any other comments by anyone? All righty, I'm going to give you one more bit of feedback, Luis. I noticed specifically a word you were reticent to use, if you used it at all. And the word is evolution. Because, well, I just say, I kind of compliment you on that. Because in many folks' mind, challenging evolution biblically, it just gets you into too many rabbit holes. And avoiding that word as you explained the layers in the different realms, I think that was excellent. There's an implied evolution.
Yeah, the first slide that, the communication between that's the first slide that we use, very simple, on an 8-hour workshop about evolution. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
On that slide, which is much more complex than what I showed you because not the purpose, on that slide, we spent about an hour and a half digging all the possibilities, everything, to its core. But yeah, evolution is part of life. So that's moving layers, right?
That's exactly. Any others?
Yeah,
Well,
I want to make a comment only because we got a little bit diverted off of the topic with the consciousness level. But I honestly feel that the consciousness, as you were saying, that of the leaders being here, the relevance to me is to help people become more conscious as we look at each other in the ignorance where we are. In order to blow that out, it has to be for us to see and get clear pictures of it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Get what I'm saying? And I think once we elevate our minds to, like, you know, I guess using our own consciousness and saying, well, no, this is not where I'd like to stay, we'll have to change it. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
No, it matters a lot. I agree with you, Regina, because we're gonna be making educated decisions. Enlightened decisions is based on our evolution, personal evolution. You're right.
Yeah, you see, one thing is decision on leaders has another parameter here.
Yeah.
For those who do not believe in any form of life after death, is different. For example, if you vote at, let me describe the word person, the way I'm gonna use it. Person is an incarnate spirit that dies on the last day, and that's it. Okay, from the material, from a belief system that doesn't see life after death. So if you vote for a leader as a person, you want to see gains within your lifetime. Okay, so let's say, for example, you think you have 30 years left, or 20 years left, or 60 years left. You want to see results in that time frame. You vote on the leader based on that, because after that, it doesn't really matter. Okay, if you believe in any form of life after death, reincarnation or something else, especially reincarnation, you should not vote as a person. You should vote as an immortal spirit, and the outcome might be different.
Yeah.
Candidate A might be fantastic and great for people whose belief system do not include life after death, but candidate B might be better for those who see life, immortal life, and in 3 generations or 4, I'm back. So you see how many things are at stake here. There's all of that. So choosing the leader, you know, the belief system matters.
The belief system matters. Their morals matter.
Moral matters, yeah.
So there is belief and there is understanding. Because belief is not understanding.
Yeah,
So-
not necessarily, yeah. Mhm.
So it is interesting that there's a number of non-spiritual analyses taking place today that talk about intelligent decisions and unintelligent decisions, because we are a race of humans that learn by mistake, trial and error. And so, as Regina was just saying, we have to go through these kind of mistakes,
Yeah.
including hiring the wrong leaders or voting for the wrong leaders and learning better for the next vote.
Yeah. Yeah, that's trial and error. That's how we learn.
The collective, but those like to have a little bit more consciousness knew the morals were not correct.
That's how we evolve. Is evolution. Is
And I would say one more thing. In yesterday's USSF presentation, I heard very clearly a question I've wondered about since Spiritism found me. And that's the role of the word evangelism, spreading the knowledge, spreading Spiritism principles every chance you get. And more importantly, acting those principles. So now we get back to the whole morality reality.
well, it took us millions of years to get to this point where we understand that the evangelical process is a universal thing. It's not just our little planet stuff that is here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and certainly Luis for generating a lot of stimulating thought. We're going to take a 5-minute break, bathroom break, grab some water, and we will come back for passes.
Once again, thank you, Luis. That's very stimulating.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mark, are you able to stop?